There was several comments I got since last week from people, different people on the channel that were talking about how so many AA people looked down on them for actually trying to fix their lives while they were in the cult, before eventually leaving the AA religious cult. Of course, it brought back memories, because I think anybody who's been in AA for any extended period of time knows exactly what I'm talking about. If you're trying to do anything like some of these people were saying, I wished I could read all of their comments, but if you're trying to do anything in your life to actually improve your actual life, not just sitting in cult meetings and talking to people and listening to sponsors run their mouths and showing up early to make coffee and mopping the floor and picking up cigarette butts like they have you do. And by the way, I don't want to get derailed, but I do want to share one little insight. I remember a bunch of old timers at one particular group I used to go to. They used to pride themselves on being one of the oldest groups in the entire city, and they would say it in these glowing reverential tones, but they would literally sit outside and they would make fun of new people. Doesn't sound surprising or anything, but they would often talk about it. They wished that they could get a few treatment center people here who had gotten out of treatment and were looking for a place to stay, because they did need their lawns mowed and they did need somebody to paint their houses, etc., etc., etc. It was more or less admitting to the fact that the whole entire idea of doing slave labor for the group itself has nothing to do with you getting sober. It's literally something they can get high off of doing. Oh, you're the new guy. You're willing to go to any length? Well, you got to come over here and paint my house and do my laundry and clean my kitchen and all that other kind of shit. But if you're trying to actually do anything in the real world in regards to your own life when you're trying to recover and get well, it's looked down upon, made fun of, or whatever. As a matter of fact, I remember when I was borderline homeless at one point in my life, and I was doing little odds and ends jobs and all of that. I had showed up at a meeting, and I said, and I was standing around outside before the thing started, and they said, I've only got about $500 left before one of the fines is paid off. I owed lots of fines around that time period. I had 3 or 4 drinking-related criminal charges. Not something I'm proud of. I've talked about them on here before. But I was mentioning that at the current time that I went through the drug court program, got out of the drug court program, they literally just saddled me with thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of fines. And I thought it was funny, on one of the tickets it said restitution, and I used to think, well, what restitution? I didn't actually destroy somebody's property or injure anybody, so who am I restituting here exactly? What is this little $5,000 tack on here to this criminal offense? It's restitution. Restitution to who? But not to get sidetracked, I showed up and I said, one of these things that I'm paying on, I got about $500 left, and I kind of figure if I can get this going and this going and this going, I should be able to pay that off pretty quickly, and then I can start focusing on the next one. And of course it was shot down. Of course everybody said, yeah, worried about money. You just want to drive again. You just want your license back so you can get drunk and drive again. Well, I hope you never get your license back, and the same standard usual bullshit they do to people when they're looking down on them. But there were several comments that people were talking about how they had went on after leaving AA, started their own businesses, had achieved success, moderate levels of success in their real lives, by just quitting drinking, giving up AA, and just going about their, normal routines, which, of course, AA members are always saying, I never saw anybody come back and say it gets better out there. Never saw anybody do that. That's because the people like myself and many others who leave, or when they leave, they don't feel no need to come back and sit down in a meeting and say, actually, it gets better without you fucking control freak assholes. For one thing, they would know that that's going to be a complete and utter waste of time. If you went to an AA meeting and you said, I'm doing fine, no steps, no sponsors, and I just came here to let you guys know that, you would be demeaned and attacked and shot down in the next few shares. And then after the meeting was over, all those people would gather around and they'd trash talk you, and they would talk about how they can't wait for you to get drunk again. And they would probably make up a lie and say, oh, I smelled alcohol on him when he got here. I know he was drinking. He was drinking. The big book talks about people who can't get honest. All that other shit. But the thing that stuck out, in this particular subscriber comment was she said the jealousy of those old timers because I was trying to fix my life is laughable now. They were convinced I was going to relapse because I was focused on not being broke and homeless, like I would have continued to be if I kept listening to their slogans. And you know, that is true. It correlates to my own experience, what I was just talking about. When I was borderline homeless and living on the streets, like I just talked about, and I was trying to pay those fines off, and I was trying to find steady employment, and I was trying to get my life back together, they didn't want to hear that. You know, there were people that actually told me, you need to be in the AA clubhouse is open 4 or 5 times a day, and I don't see you in all the meetings. I don't see you giving it away to other people, talking to other alcoholics. I don't see you doing any service work. Well, you know, when you're trying to put your life back together again, when you have no license because the state has taken it, when you're trying to apply for work and most of the places take one look at you and your conviction record because you got convicted like a little over a year ago and they say, thank you, we'll call you. When you're dealing with temp agencies that are willing to put you to work for daily cash pay and shitty little construction jobs, and when you're dealing with, you know, doing odds and ends here and there just to make enough money to kind of survive, it takes up a lot of your time. You don't get nowhere just sitting in meetings all day, every day. In fact, I used to remember at the AA clubhouses all over the place, there was a large contingent of people who seemed to make a career out of hanging out at AA meetings. I never knew how they funded themselves. They always seemed to have on nice clothes. They always seemed to have plenty of fast food and Starbucks coffee and big books and notebooks and all of that. But I swear, you know, it was like something out of some fucking Twilight Zone somewhere. They were always at the meeting house. They were there in the morning when it opened up because at the time I was living within a stone's throw away of the place, so I had to walk by it 7 or 8 times a day. No vehicle in those days. City buses were kind of shitty, and you didn't have the cash money for bus passes. They'd be there early in the morning. You walk by there during the noon meeting kind of thing, whatnot, they're hanging around, and then you would see them there at the night meeting. And, I never understood how you would possibly support yourself or what you would do or how you could afford Starbucks coffee and fast food if you were just living at the AA clubhouse. To this day, I don't know how they were doing it, but that is actually what the subscriber just said is totally 100% correct. And I said she when I started reading the comment, and that was a mistake. It was a slip of the tongue. I meant to say they. I don't know the person's gender, so apologies if I said she and it was wrongfully used. But that's actually correct. You can't actually put your life together and get yourself off the streets if you're just sitting in AA meetings all day long. I mean, I've never seen an apartment complex that was willing to put my name in a fucking lease because I go to AA all day, every day. Don't worry about the rent. God is going to take care of the rent because the big book told me that. I haven't yet had a company that I've had to work for that, what are some of your qualifications? Well, I know I'm a hopeless alcoholic and I know I can never safely drink again. I know that God has got this and God's going to do it for me. See, you can't actually run this company. God's running this company, and you're just too egocentric and self-centered to do it. That's a real winning strategy out there, But the thing is, they write, I did their damn steps, and for a while it made me worse. Well, 100% my own experience. I bet it's the experiences of a lot of people out here watching this thing right now. I bet you actually went through all those steps. You actually sat down with sponsors who probably always told you were doing it wrong. That's the point I was going to get to here in a minute, purpose of this video. But you've always had the sponsor that was telling you, no, that's not what it really means. That's not what it really says. It's funny. If the program, to continue off what I talked about last week, if the program is so simple, why do I need a fucking guide to get through the first 164 pages to interpret what these dumbass little sentences and baseless assertions mean? There was a group of people I went to one time, they actually had total phony bullshit, and I've talked about this on here before. They had a 1930s dictionary, they called it. A 1930s dictionary because words in the 1930s meant other things back then, like the word be rid of and the word obsession. Obsession meant possession by demonic forces. No, it did fucking not. I mean, I'm sorry that you're fucking stupid about the English language and literature, but obsession never meant that you were possessed by Satan in the 1930s especially. But you have a guide that tells you, this is how you are properly supposed to read the big book. You read the big book and all the answers you give are always going to be wrong. And you do all those steps. You feel more anxiety-ridden. You feel more worthless. You still have a desire to drink. You end up drinking again, and then you're told, well, it's all your fault, This is a very simple program. If you want it, all you had to do is do what we told you to do. And then you can tell them, well, I did do what you told me to do. And they can say, yeah, but you weren't willing. You know, they know what you're thinking. You know, where was your ego? You know, it's always something. But not to get back into the subject of last week's video, but I've never felt more shame in my life, they go on to write, than I did when I believed their nonsense. I had a chemical dependency, and they made me feel like I was something to be scraped off the bottom of someone's shoe, which is another reason why AA does not believe alcoholism is a disease. If you really believe somebody had a disease of the mind and body, like they talk about, if you really believe that it was would you treat a sick friend like that, is what they say in their stupid literature. Well, with friends like those, who needs enemies, right? But if you truly believed that it was a disease, you would not treat people like dirt like they love to do in those meetings. You would not do that because they are actually sick. The term sick in AA has two meanings. There's the people like I was, and the people like this subscriber was, and the people who struggle with a drinking problem, you know, who are degenerates, who should be looked down on, mocked and scorned and all that other kind of thing. And then there are the old-timers who can do whatever they want. They can financially exploit sponsees. They can sexually harass newcomers, feel entitled to doing that. And if you corner them on it, they'll say, well, you know, Big Book says that I'm sick. You know, I'm sick alcoholic here. I actually hit something here when I lost my place in the comment section. And now I can't seem to get it back. So bear with me for one moment. Okay, I've lost it. Well, anyway, I can keep going because what they were talking about a little later on is the same thing. Well, actually, there was only one or two more sentences left, but they were going to say they were always told that it was their ego and that they weren't doing it right, which is exactly my own experience, and I bet the experiences of many of my the people who are watching, the subscribers, the people who comment. But that was actually the point I was leading up to, is a hypothetical scenario here I was about to paint. Tell me if this sounds familiar to you. You know, this is how a typical conversation with most of these sponsors goes. You show up at the meeting, they walk up to you, they look at you, size you up a little bit, give you a bit of an evil eye there. You know, like they're trying to make sure you're not really actually drinking. You know, I used to have a guy that would do that to people on purpose, and I know he was doing it on purpose because he later on admitted it, but he would walk up to fairly new people who were fairly vulnerable, who were still trying to, you know, kind of feel their way in. He'd say, your eyes look a little red. Are you sure you're not fucked up on something? You know, somebody should have just busted him right in the fucking face. That would have been poetic justice. But they walk up to you, they look at you like that on purpose to make you feel vulnerable, and they make you feel defensive, and they make you feel like you've done something wrong. You pissed in the cloakroom in the teacher's class when everybody was at recess. That's the kind of feeling they want to instill into you. So, what are you doing? How is everything going? And you say, yeah, everything's fine, you know, and they say, you know what fine means? It means fucked up, neurotic, emotional, you know. What do you mean by fine? Do you even know what fine means? And then you have to explain to them, well, I mean, I'm doing pretty good today, you know, I haven't drank anything. Did you want to drink? No, didn't really want to drink today. Well, you know, in the Big Book it says we laugh at people like the schoolboy whistling in the dark, and that's what you are. You're the schoolboy whistling in the dark because, you ain't even got 90 days yet, so we know you want to drink. I know you want to drink. I've seen a million fuckers like you that are drunk. You might even be drinking right now. I don't know. You might be drinking right now. You know, I've seen people lie. You know, you're dishonest as an alcoholic anyway. And then you say something like, well, no, I'm really trying. I haven't drank. I haven't done anything today. I really don't feel like drinking today. And then they put you back in that defenseless position by saying something like, did you pray this morning? You know, and you say, yeah, I prayed. No, that's probably a lie. That was a lie for me on many occasions. I did try praying, and the praying didn't work. But anyway, did you pray this morning? Yeah, I did. Did you pray on your knees? No, I didn't pray on my knees. You know, I got up, I was in a hurry. I kind of prayed as I was. You're supposed to pray on your knees. What, do you think you're so arrogant that you can't bow to God? Is that what it is? You think you're better than God? You can't put your knees down in front of God. Is that what this is all about? And then defensively you say something like, no, really, I was just in a hurry. But you sure you don't want to drink? You know, and then of course you say you don't want to drink. And then, what does being powerless over alcohol mean to you? Well, it means I can't drink like normal people. No, that's not what it means. Being powerless over alcohol, it means I'm bodily and mentally different from my fellows, like the Big Book says. No. You don't understand anything, do you? You know, well, powerless over alcohol, it means You still don't understand anything, do you? You know I was like you. I thought I knew everything when I got here. I thought I was smart. We bury smart motherfuckers all the time. Do you know what powerless over alcohol is? Well, according to what you told me the other day, it means, see, if you're trying to make up a reason why you're powerless over alcohol, then you don't understand the first step. What step are you claiming you're on this morning? Well, I'm actually believing that I'm on step 2 because you said that see, you're trying to jump ahead. You're trying to beat a race. You're trying to get ahead of the program. I've seen people like you get ahead of the program and they all get drunk and die, you know. I'm not really trying to get ahead of the program. What I'm saying is, you told me we had done a step 1 together. I feel I'm on step 2 right now. But you don't even understand what powerless is, so how can you be on step 2? You know, don't tell me what I want to hear. Don't tell me that, because I can see through it. Everybody in this room can see through it. You know, you're never right when you're talking to them. You're never on an equal playing field with them. You're never best friends with them. You're never any of that shit. You know, unless you make the 4 or 5 year mark, and then you can start, you get your badge of honor to treat other people like shit and do that same kind of goddamn underhanded bullying tactic that I think they do on purpose. They would swear up and down if you cornered it on them. No, I'm not doing it on purpose. I just care about saving lives. You know, I don't have patience for people who aren't serious, because people who aren't serious die. And I don't want any more death on my conscience. You know, well, you said God has to do that for you, right? So therefore, you don't have death on your conscience. Well, you know, I'm a sick alcoholic, and alcoholics take responsibility. I'm just saying, there's a drunk right now that's willing to go to any length that I could be talking to, and I'm wasting time with you and all that other kind of thing. It's bullying, underhanded bullshit, and then they disguise it as care and concern. Kind of like abusers who beat the shit out of their kids all the time and tell them, we do that to you, you know, because we love you. But the funny thing about it that it brought back up when they made that comment that got me to thinking, you never do the program correctly with them. You know, like when I did a 4-step with a guy, and one time I ended up, I don't think I ever even completed it with him. I ended up with somebody else, but I had 4 columns because I had a treatment center sheet at the time that they gave us a drug course. So I had 4 columns. He's like, well, you're going to do it with 4 columns. You're going to be drunk again within a week. And I was like, why? Because it's got 4 columns. He literally takes out the big book and he's like, you see 4 columns here? I see 3 columns. I don't see 4 columns. And this thing here that it's got about what do you want to do in life, that's not in the big book. That's not in the big book. These people don't give a flying fuck about people and their addictions. These people don't give a flying fuck about anybody getting better. They literally are doing nothing but feeding their own narcissistic fucking ego, playing some kind of guru that they really are not, because in the real world they're a bunch of fucking losers who would not stop drinking. You know, try applying for a credit card in the real world. I hadn't drank in 20 years. See how well that goes somewhere. Try getting a job in the real world. I've done my 4-step. Try doing any of the shit that they try to tell you is some kind of design for living that doesn't give you any useful information, that never addresses how to deal with drinking cravings, that never addresses how to deal with ordinary events that trigger and stress you out, that lead you to want to drink, that never really actually deals with root causes and conditions. I used to find it so fucking hilarious in the meetings that they would talk about root causes and conditions, but you're to blame for all the root causes and conditions. I had a resentment against my mother because my mother used to hit me with a stick, and she broke a stick over my head, gave me 19 stitches in my head in the hospital, and yeah, I played a part in that. That was my fault. You know, I was 9 years old, and I had an alcoholic mind even back then. That's why my mother beat me like that. With those kinds of fucking moral inventories, no wonder nobody can ever heal over their traumas and past triggers that bother them the way they do, because AA never addresses them. AA has a weird religious philosophy, like somebody who commented. I don't have the comments in front of me because the phone went haywire. But they had, in fact, it wasn't on YouTube. It was on Facebook, where she commented, the entire program is about the universe is mysterious. Ooh, that means God's going to take care of me and remove my drinking problem so long as I, you know, obey his command to be an AA for the rest of my life. And now I'm a miracle, so I have a license to treat people like garbage forever and ever because I'm a miracle. It used to, closing with this, their definition of grace, this idea that they were chosen. I need to do an entire video on that. I'm sure I've talked about it on here before. But you know, I remember bringing up to somebody one time, because I'm naturally kind of pessimistically inclined. Tragedies, I guess because I'm one of these people that's kind of hypersensitive to tragedy, because I know how easily it can strike. I know how easily you can wake up one morning and everything can be taken away from you. You know, I even posed that to one guy that was calling himself God's miracle one time after a meeting. I said, well, let me ask you this question. Somebody goes to the doctor and they're told they got multiple sclerosis. Yeah, you don't really have a pinched nerve in your neck. You got multiple sclerosis. Or you get up in the morning and you're making coffee and all of a sudden you get a phone call and your 16-year-old daughter was killed in a car crash. Or you wake up in the morning and you had just talked to your father the night before and been in an argument with him and you found out some intruder broke into his house and murdered him. I mean, can you explain to me how you not drinking is this miracle? He said, there's only one word to someone like you, only one word, and you won't understand it because you don't have it. And I say, yeah, what's the one word? I need to know. The secret to the universe. He said, grace. I was like, oh, I see. You quit drinking and now you're an AA bully and God just put a little shield over you so you don't have to experience tragedy like all those other poor, unfortunate people that have horrible things happen to them on a daily basis out here who endure all kinds of untold pain and suffering that I can't even begin to guess at. But you don't have to worry about any of that because you got grace. Anyway, I think that's all I'm going to be able to sum up for this week. I kind of wasn't sure where I was going with this when I got started. And that's been kind of a trend lately. Maybe I should keep it up. Just start out with kind of a generalized idea and just start going. See you guys next time.